is an idea that many of us do have the solutions about what we can be doing, and I'm willing to listen and then trying to implement those ideas and those solutions that people have. And I'm very committed to actually doing that. I know Sean Loney, as an example, has put forward ideas about social enterprise and doing things with energy. I'm willing to look at those things. I think that's important. I think those are great ideas, and I'd love to implement those to make sure we can create employment in the inner city and right across the city for everyone, because poverty is not only inside the inner city, it's everywhere in the city, and people sometimes forget about that. And we need to actually do something about it, and if someone won't step up, then we need to step up, because it's our community, and at the end of the day, the city council and the mayor's office, the mayor is ultimately responsible for ensuring the overall health and well-being of all the citizens of our city.
Okay. So
sorry, I don't mean to.
It's okay. You're for the community grants program. You would not be somebody who'd be looking to cut the community grants program. Okay.
Right. Well, the first thing for me is leaning into what the nonprofit sector has been saying for decades, which is it's cheaper to house and support people than to have all of these systems responding to their very perpetual, predictable crises. And I'm not just saying that. I believe it. I know it. And we're gonna lean into it. And what that means is, instead of going from the government on out, it means going from the solution on in. And so we start with the solution, and and how do we, like, say, supportive housing is the intervention. So it's a three-step process. Some people say, Sean, it's complicated. People aren't going to understand it. No, it's not complicated. It's shockingly simple compared to what we're doing now. So number one, we ask the emergency service providers to come up with a list of people that they see all the time. And that's not done now. Secondly, we say, okay, can you tell us the amount of resources you're spending in staff time responding to that particular group? And number three is negotiate an agreement with the nonprofit and pay them depending on how successful the nonprofit is at reducing that workload. It's a simple three-step process. Governments value what it is that they buy, and in essence, this is leaning into using that tool. And one of the advantages of this is that the emergency service providers, they're not paying for supportive housing. They're paying for the impact that supportive housing has on their system. Secondly, the other levels of government are also benefiting significantly from the love and compassion that the nonprofit sector is providing. And so what that might look like is like, oh, these 100 people that this Indigenous nonprofit housing provider is supporting, there's fewer contacts with police, sure, but there's also a significant reduction in the amount of visits to the emergency ward at the hospital. There's a reduction in the number of court appearances. There's a reduction in the number of nights in jail. There's a reduction in the amount of legal aid. There's a reduction in the amount of social assistance that's being paid. And the way we properly resource nonprofits is to make sure that governments are valuing the very lucrative impacts that those nonprofit interventions are having on their systems. And that, to me, is what systems change looks like, is those nonprofits, they must be valued, and governments value what they buy. And this is using tools that they're already used to engage businesses, and we're just bringing this tool into the nonprofit sector to get the money moving in the way that it should.
The majority of affordable housing in Winnipeg is provided by private landlords. Okay, it is not publicly funded. It's not for profits. The overwhelming majority of affordable housing is provided by an individual who owns 1 or 2 or 10 rental properties. And those individuals today are not connected at all to the social worker person on the street, okay, the outreach workers. They don't have any relationships today. And so when I ask the landlords, what do you do when you have a vacancy? How do you fill it? Oh, we look at, we advertise on Kijiji and this and that and the other. And in the meantime, you ask the social workers, well, when you find somebody in need of housing, how do you help them find a house? Well, we look on Kijiji. And I said, well, I have a good idea. Why don't we create an affordable housing registry where private landlords can voluntarily make their housing available and make that known to the people who need to have access to it for their clients. And I got to tell you, that was really well received by every single social worker that I spoke to in this industry, and there were many over the course of the campaign. And I was really proud of the fact that when I announced the affordable housing strategy, which has multiple points in it, but that piece of it too is a really important one for the redevelopment of the derelict buildings in Winnipeg that we have today, all 780 empty houses. And that redevelopment is going to be done without any public money, because the people that are going to redevelop it are the private landlords that have the means and the capability of doing it. And in order to be eligible to participate in my auction of derelict houses, they have to be capable of refurbishing the property, and they have to have a commitment to renting it out at affordable rates. And when I say affordable rates, I just want to be really clear, I mean EIA welfare rates, okay? And that's going to be the deal if you want to participate in the auction. So those landlords have the capability of fixing up those properties and making them available. And when they do that, we're going to partner them up with the social service agencies, so that the first and most important thing to help anybody that is living marginalized today is to get them a house. And once they are housed, then those social workers, now they have the capability of providing all of the wraparound supports that we keep hearing about.
Your father,
Mm-hmm.
I don't doubt that he was a good landlord. What
Yeah.
would you do with the landlords who are not, though? They take your deal. Like, what would you do to actually enforce? Because there are not good landlords out there.
Here,
Accountability and
yeah, well, I am all about accountability, right? And I think that we need to start judging people on what they actually do. And when I said that in order to become a qualified buyer at my auction, you will commit to renting that property out at welfare rates. If they don't, I will find a way to take it away from them and give it to somebody that will.
How would you do
Because
that?
the city of Winnipeg already has bylaws called Take Title Without Compensation, and that's the bylaw that I'm going to use to seize all of the derelict houses that we have in this city. And when we structure the rules for the auction of those houses, that's where that enforcement will be. It'll be part of that deal. And we have the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action, and we've been talking about truth and reconciliation for a really long time in this city and in this country. And to me, what I see is a lot of symbols. I see a lot of flag waving and accord signing, and they do it within, a few hundred yards of people who are living in absolute third world squalor conditions. That's disgusting. And in my view, the single greatest act of reconciliation, and I believe in acts, not symbols, the single greatest act of reconciliation is to provide housing, dignified housing for the individuals that need it, all of them. Because the one thing that people need, if they want to be successful, if they want to have an opportunity for a happy life and to raise a family or pursue a career or all of the things that we all want to do, the thing that people need more than anything else is hope and dignity, and that's what we've stripped away. And when you drive down Main Street today, the net effect of most of the agencies, in spite of their best efforts, the net effect is to strip hope and dignity from the people that need it the most.
You have to calibrate it against need, and it has to be part of a larger plan. And it has to provide all of the pieces. To take poverty on, you have to do all things on all fronts at all times. Because everything, as my friend David Crombie often said so truthfully and famously, is connected to everything else. So, addictions and mental health, what the challenges are there. If you want to get into detox, you have to get into detox right away. But you have to have housing, you have to have a safe place to call home and through that process. You finish detox, and you need to get into recovery or treatment, you need to do that right away. You can't wait 2 weeks, and people have to wait 6 weeks. If you're going to get back into sort of adjusting to community and restoring your independence, and that sometimes it's hard if you've been away from living in an apartment, do that. This is the complex level of support when we have, it's estimated right now by the province, I'm not sure whose numbers are the most real, but about 3,000 people in that. 150 units is going to get swallowed up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
One way is to work with End Homelessness Winnipeg to find the solutions that are needed to support our relatives on the streets who need the access to the services that will support their needs. I believe it's listening to lived experiences of of our citizens on the streets and connecting them to the right resources that they need.
Okay, but what would you do? Like, how would you engage like the sector? So that's it's like we're the ones, there's a wide variety of expertise, but like, how would you actually go out and talk to us about those solutions and help and to implement them? Like, how would you work with us?
One ways I can see that the nonprofit sector could be more supportive is the creation of a similar to the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce is for all nonprofits to host their own chamber of engagement with all nonprofits.
Collaboration is critical to us being collectively successful and our community being healthier and stronger. So as mayor, I'm committed, first of all, to build a really good relationship with the province of Manitoba, the Premier of Manitoba, whomever the Premier is, because so many of the services that citizens right now in our community need are under the purview right now of the province of Manitoba. So whether it's healthcare, mental health, addiction services, social services and beyond, Winnipeg can't do it alone, so we need the assistance of the province, but we also need the assistance of the partner agencies, the great nonprofits and others in our community that are doing just such great work. So in my vision for Winnipeg is that we're really working in collaboration, identifying the gaps and addressing them, identifying the overlaps and streamlining so that we can collectively do a better job of helping the people of Winnipeg succeed and get the assistance they need.
Well, to be honest with you, I've been working with some non-profit organizations. The first thing I want to do is to engage with them, sit down with them, know their concerns. And I will be honest with you, I'm just trying to mention about homelessness stuff and some other stuff. So that was the first thing I did, just to sit down. Where are we? What have we done so far? What do we need to do? We sit down, we look at it. Okay, do we need money for this? Do we need money for that? How do we get the money? So it's about talking about all these initiatives, and figure out what do we need to do right now, and when do we have to do that. It has to be smart goal. It has to be specific, measurable. It has to be realistic. It has to be time bound. All those things, it has to come into play. But we sit down, we engage together, and we look at what are the ways to get the resources for all these initiatives. So I strongly believe in collaboration and engagement. But the first thing is to sit together and figure out what needs to be done.
I don't believe engagement is like a one meeting sitting at a table to check a box and saying, oh, well, we had your meeting and now we're going to do it. What I want is discourse. I want discourse, and I think that they know what they want. We just haven't been listening. They know what they need. We just haven't been listening. They have been actively asking for specific things. We just have not been listening. So from my perspective, my job here is to really listen to what gaps are filled with what community organization. What outcome can they measurably serve? How do we make sure that it's fitting the larger poverty reduction strategy, the larger homelessness initiatives, the larger addictions and mental health issues? Everything is kind of hand in hand. So every community organization can expect to be in constant, I wouldn't say constant, but I would say pretty aggressive communication with me. Once we get to that point, because they are going to be the ones who lift us out of this mess. I guarantee it.
Important to make sure that we have a really good relationship with the provincial government as well, because we have not, in my opinion, over the last 7 or 8 years, and I think that's it's been a really sad thing, disappointing thing for Winnipeg, because I think we could be in a much different place if we had a really good working relationship with the provincial government that was in office at the time. And so we just need to make sure that our interests are aligned with the provincial government as well. And that is a challenging thing. We often have different interests, but as mayor, we here in Winnipeg, we have the bulk of Manitoba's population. So it's really important that provincial government is also looking at Winnipeg as a real priority. Having said that, I also think that it's really important for City Hall to make sure that we're working with all the organizations, collaborating, not putting up roadblocks and making sure that we are listening. There is I completely understand as a city council, we have a lot of things to juggle, a lot of priorities to juggle, a lot of things to think about. But if we can help raise the level of income, the level of socioeconomic status of people who are living in Winnipeg, I think we all benefit from that. And it's a quality of life thing. It's a quality of life thing for all Winnipeggers. And it's I think it's just an important thing that we all kind of need to